So you want to meet some new friends, right? Completely new friends that otherwise you normally wouldn't ever meet. Because, I don't know, maybe you're tired of the fucking people in your life, right? You want to change things up. The people in your life suck. They're boring. They're mediocre. Maybe they're just non-fucking existent. You don't have any friends, right? You want to be able to meet friends in a non-traditional way, right? Not the typical, okay, you hang out with your friend. He has a friend. You meet a new friend, right? Or through work, or through your partner, right? Your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever. You want to meet people a completely new way, right? And broaden your horizons. And I think this is very good for a lot of reasons, right? One of the things I did when I first set out to stop being a shy nerd is I just wanted to meet everyone from every background, every creed, every race, whatever. I just wanted to be able to connect with anyone, right? I wanted to understand how to socialize on a fundamental level. And I was curious about people. I was curious how people work, what they think, what they want, right? And there are obviously huge differences between different, cliques and groups. And I did that in college early on. And so I did have a bit of a concentrated environment where, you could go to this club and, people are going to be of this kind of variety of personality. You go to this, and you kind of get different, we'll just call it cliques, right? But how do you do that in the real world, in adult life, right? Things are easier in college when everything's kind of concentrated, but real life is kind of Wild West, right? It's very spread out. Well, that's how you think it is, right? It isn't actually that different than in college. It just appears to be different. And also, you're probably just less motivated, right, than you were when you were younger. And so you can still take the strategy of like going to certain clubs, right, certain activities, because you need to ask yourself, what are people doing when they're not working, right? But this obviously can apply to anyone watching this who's still in school, right? You can take this philosophy and apply it to your actual campus. But I think people outside of school are struggling a lot more because it doesn't feel as easy. But you just need to ask yourself very simply, where are people spending time, right? Because you have to be in front of the person to meet them, right? Because we're not talking about meeting people online. In real life, in the flesh, kind of spontaneously. So there's really two ways that I'm going to advise to you. One is the traditional way that I just mentioned, meeting people at certain activities that they're going to. Or two, you do meet them in the wild, so to speak, right? It's the same way that you would meet a girl, for instance, like when I teach guys how to do day game. And what that is, you're walking throughout your life and you see a beautiful girl at the grocery store. Normally, most people would not go talk to her because they're like, okay, it's not like a bar or a club. I haven't drank anything. It's not a social environment. No, I would say that's stupid. Why would you not meet her, go up and say hello, and you think that she's beautiful? Obviously, that there's more details there to be able to like do it charismatically, but that's the gist of it. And so you walked up to her and you start talking to her. If she wants to talk to you, she wants to talk to you. If not, right? And you go from there and start a conversation and ask her out. There's a whole art to it, right? But it's the same concept if you want to meet a friend. It just won't be obviously about, being attracted to them. It'll be more of just like getting to know them. And it might not be as like, hey, what's up? This is why I'm talking to you. It can be a little bit more casual than that, right? So let's go over this kind of Wild West method first, because it might not occur to you that you can actually meet people spontaneously this way. I mean, you probably have, but you considered it more of like, it was just the right situation right there, right? You didn't really go out of your way to do it, to replicate it. Everyone's probably met someone, in some weird situation randomly, but it's actually something you can replicate and iterate over and over. So let's go over that first, and then we'll go over the typical like activities, right? But we're trying to meet people that we would never otherwise meet. We are trying to broaden our horizons and meet completely new people, right? So I'll give you a few examples of how I met random people throughout my life. And I have tons of these stories, but these are the ones that just came to mind. So one time I was visiting Denver because I was thinking of moving there after graduating, and I was torn between Denver and San Diego. And so I took a quick trip to Denver, stayed for a week. And while I was there, I was obviously trying to socialize. I was trying to get laid, and I did get laid a couple times. And then I was also curious about, meeting friends and creating a social circle, right? So I did couch surfing, which is a typical kind of way. Like, I'm just going to put myself in this environment and meet people this way. And that worked, right? But then there was one time where this was kind of a Wild West situation where I was at a grocery store and I saw some girl walk up to a guy, and she was quite cute and started talking to him. And it seemed that there was some chemistry there. And I thought, okay, well, normally I see the guy approach the girl, but this situation will look kind of different. And I was like, oh, I wonder what's up with that, right? Well, when I was checking out, I noticed that the guy was in line with me. I think he was either in front of me or behind me, but he was like right next to me. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to take this opportunity I'm just curious, right? So I looked at him and I said, how did it go with that girl over there? And he kind of like paused for a moment and looked at me and then smiled. And he's like, there's a funny story behind that. And, Americans are a little bit more social than your average person anywhere else, right? That is true, right? But even if you're not in America, you can still socialize with people. I know because I've done this in Europe, right? So don't think that this is just an American thing. But Americans are a little bit more, easier to transition. But he did have this moment in his eyes like, oh, you noticed. And then like just when you approach someone with this casual, almost the attitude you should have kind of, and the attitude I carry with a lot of these interactions is, why shouldn't we talk to each other? Like, not only is it normal, it would be, in my opinion, not normal and weird to not be able to socialize, right? I come from the angle where not socializing is actually the weird thing, right? Of course, if you don't want to socialize, that's fine. But if you actively like don't have the ability to, or you're nervous or you're shy, I consider that weird. So I kind of come in like, you should totally respond to me because this is just normal, right? That doesn't guarantee that the person's going to actually like you. But when you come with this casual energy, it'll remove a lot of that awkwardness. Now, for you to actually have this energy really, down pat, you have to get experience and you have to, be charismatic, have conversation, da-da-da. But you can start trying to recondition yourself or even brainwash yourself to start believing that socializing is normal, because it is, right? I understand if someone's in a bad mood and they're just like, it's just someone I used to know, and just like brushes it off. Oh, okay, this person doesn't feel like talking to me. Totally get it, right? But they're not going to like look at you and like look away and just like be socially stupid and fucking, freeze. But he was like, it's actually a funny story. And he started going into details about it. And the gist of it was, in the past, he had talked to this girl. I don't think they had dated. And I don't know if they'd slept together or not. I can't remember those details. But they hadn't talked in a long time. And they just randomly ran into each other at the grocery store. And she seemed really interested, and kind of the spark came back. And I was like, oh, cool. That's really interesting, right? And then, started chatting, asked him how long he's been living here. He asked me. I'm like, oh, I'm just visiting. Da-da-da-da-da. We check out, grab our stuff. And then we're like, hey, we should hang out sometime. Cool. Exchange numbers, right? So I observed something, and I made a comment on it, right? This was a little bit of a cool, special moment, but that's what a lot of socializing is about. It's catching these opportunities, right? Because we had a very clear thing to talk about, right? You're not always going to have a clear, some guy's just going to be standing behind you in line, right? You're not going to have such a great context like this. But you can just turn around and be like, oh, hey, what's up, man? Right? Now, you're not going to like be standing there and you're going to, okay, it's time to say what's up, man. And you're going to turn around and go, what's up, dude? That's going to be a little bit forced, right? You might have to little kind of play with it. Like, you kind of sit around and standing around, and then you kind of just look around, and then you catch eyes with him. This sounds really gay, right? You guys go hold eye contact, right, for a second and a half to demonstrate your sexual attraction. But no, you lock eyes and you're just like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And then you see how he responds, right? And you check if he's in a mood to socialize or not. And he'll be like, oh, hey, what's up, dude? How you doing? Be like, oh, good. Just grabbing, I don't know, fucking popcorn for movie night or something. Like, oh, what are you up to? You have any fun plans? Oh, da 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 da. And then, whether he's going to like you or not is largely dependent on your social skills, obviously. Just like when you go and talk to a girl, you see her in the fucking chicken aisle and you walk up to her, you're like, hey, I think you're really beautiful. I want to come meet you. My name's Hector. Your performance is going to play a large part in whether she likes you or not, because your performance is going to demonstrate things about you, right? You're going to be telling your story through the way that you speak and behave and hold eye contact or lack thereof, or your body language, your vocal tonality, right? Your initial first impression is going to say a lot about you, and it's going to make them either want to keep talking to you or not. But I'm not giving you a fucking, 5-hour lecture on how to be, charismatic and everything. That's for other videos, right? This is just like how to actually get the ball rolling, okay? How to initiate a conversation. So in this instance, I observed something, I made a comment on it, right? And also, there's a lot of nuances there. Like the way I made a comment, it makes it seem like I know how these things work. Like I recognize she was interested, I'm kind of like your buddy, like, oh, hey man, how'd that go? Right? It created this feeling of camaraderie, instantly, right? It's kind of like game recognizes game. Like he understood, like, I know, what's going on, right? And that makes him think, oh, this is someone I can actually talk to, right? But if I had been like, hey man, how did it go talking to that pretty girl, right? It would not have gone so well, right? So there's a lot of details here, but the gist of it was I made a comment, right? Different instance. I remember I was in the metro. I can't remember where I was, maybe Germany or something, right? So, and there's this guy across from me, and he was kind of listening. He was just kind of listening to music. No, he was. He was listening to music, but he was kind of rocking his head a little bit. And I assumed he was listening to some metal or something, and I'm a huge metalhead. So I kind of like try to catch eyes with him a couple times, and then he wasn't really holding eye contact. He wasn't giving me the love eyes. So I kind of waved my hand a little bit like this, and he kind of looked at me, and I just like, what are you listening to? Just out of curiosity, right? And he kind of took it out, and he smiled at me. He's like, huh? So that was a good sign, right? If he had been like, what's up? Yeah, I would tell he's not open, right? Just like a girl. You go talk to a girl. Some girls are inherently kind of open to you, and then they'll be more open depending on your performance. Some girls not so open. But if you perform well, if you have a good energy and charisma and this and that, you can even intrigue people who are not necessarily open to meeting you right now. And you might even brighten their day, right? At the very least. So there's really not a lot to lose outside of a little bit of pain and rejection. But he kind of smiled and was like, what was that? And I said, oh, what are you listening to? He's like, oh, I'm listening. I think it was Black Label Society. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of them, or they rock or something and da-da-da. And I can't remember if he let me listen or not, but he just said yes or something. We started chatting. And then, yeah, started talking from there. Unfortunately, I had to run to get off because I think my dad was on a different train. We accidentally kind of got mixed up, and I was trying to catch him. So I didn't end up getting the guy's contact or anything, but definitely could have, right? We were having a great conversation. Could have been like, hey, man, let's, hang out sometime while I'm here. But I was passing through really quickly. So different instance. I was in San Diego, and I was walking home, and there was this girl with a fat ass right in front of me. And there was this dude next to me, and I kind of made a comment. I was like, she looks good, She was far enough away that she couldn't quite hear me. And I was like, yeah, she looks good. He's like, yeah, dude, she looks good. And I'm like, you should go talk to her. He's like, oh, no, I can't, man. I got a girlfriend. And I was like, well, I'm single. He's like, do it, bro. And so I was like, all right, I'll wait for you to, pass by, and then I'll go after her. He's like, oh, okay. We're like having a little fun. So he like walks off. And then I walk up to her, and I start chatting with her. And, we have a nice little conversation, but probably she had a boyfriend or something, right? And then so she walks away, and he's like up on this hill by then. And I see him turn around, and he kind of raises his arm like, how'd it go? And I'm just like, or like I did some sort of a signal to let him know. And he's like, oh, man, dang it, right? But of course, if I really wanted to meet him, right, this would have been a little bit more going out of my way, but I could have been like, wait 1 second, and just start walking towards him. Because, like, right, you might think that that is too much, right? But it's not, right? People are pretty desperate for good connections, both romantically, sexually, and friendships, right? Women out there who aren't currently satisfied, right, and happy in a relationship, or they might be in a relationship but they're not happy, but we're not going to obviously go after those girls, right? But like, there's a lot of women out there who are dissatisfied, and they are really far more open to meeting guys than you could possibly imagine, right? Now, they're not walking around with signs over their head saying, hey, I'm single and horny, but they are giving signals that are maybe more subtle through their body language and their eye contact, right? But also guys and girls, right? If you're a girl watching this, you want to meet girlfriends. A lot of guys and girls out there are also desperate for meeting friends, because the reason why I'm making this video is how to meet friends that you normally wouldn't meet, right? Because the people in your friend groups, you're kind of like, I don't really want to meet more people who are like the people I know, because the people who I know, I don't really like them that much, right? You're interested in meeting people who are really going to benefit you, people who are really going to, brighten up your life, because you are definitely a product of the people that you are around, okay? You are going to be highly conditioned, right? If you are surrounded by rich people, there's a very good chance that you're going to have a higher probability of being successful. Whether it's an energy thing or literally like they give you advice kind of thing, there's a lot of ways that the people around you are going to condition you, right? If the guys around you are good with girls, you're going to probably get better, even if it's just because you're observing them and learning from them, or getting advice from them, or just like, absorbing their energy, right? So making money, dating, if you're really interested in playing soccer, you're going to be a better soccer player the more you spend time around soccer players, because they're going to be like, hey man, I'm going to go practice, do an extra practice tonight, right? And that will inspire you, be like, hey, I'll come with you, because normally you wouldn't, but because you're seeing that grind in them, you're going to be motivated to go do it too, right? So whatever it is that you're looking for in life, a better dating life, making more money, being more wise, having friends who are into meditation, people who are into whatever it is, you want to meet more Christian friends. I mean, that's pretty easy, go to the church. But you want to meet people who are going to improve your life, right? And so I say that people are more open than you think they are, because me running up to him and like catching up to him, he would have been happy to hear the story, right? And then I could have been like, hey, by the way, man, you seem like a cool guy. We should, go out sometime, or da-da-da, whatever, right? If I was really that interested in getting to know him. It was just like a buddy-buddy moment. It wasn't anything that deep. But if I did meet someone who I was like, oh, I really feel, this guy feels different, he feels cool, go out of your way, right, to go and meet him. Is there a possibility the dude thinks you're gay? Yeah, it's possible, right? And you're just like way too interested in meeting him, and not even like him thinking you're gay, but there is like, if you're too interested in meeting someone, well, then they're gonna like naturally kind of think you're lower than them. If you don't think the world works like this, sorry to tell you, buddy, it does, right? Certain people think they're better than others. Certain people think they're worse, and that may or not be true, right? But there is this signaling that we're always kind of doing. And if you show too much interest, then yeah, you might come off too lower. But those are extremes. And if you just stay within, don't go to the extreme where you show too little interest, which is not trying at all, right? Where's that gotten you all your life? Fucking nowhere, right? So you're going to have to try more than what you're doing now. But of course, there is too much of an extreme, and that extreme is going to come out in the way that you behave, right? But you do need to start trying more than you're currently trying, okay? And is there going to be a risk where you try too hard to be someone's friend and you come off annoying or eager? Yeah, sure. But that's part of the learning process. Just like approaching girls, getting rejected, and refining the way that you come off is, part of the learning process. And it isn't just us that do it. I mean, I saw this fucking documentary where it was like birds and I think it was more than just birds, but it might have been a documentary on birds. But it was like all these different birds literally like practicing their little dances that they would do in front of girls. And they were alone practicing what they later do as like a dancing ritual to attract women. So even fucking birds are practicing their little own communication rituals, right? So if the birds can do it, you can do it, whether it's learning how to approach girls and getting better at it, or learning how to approach guys that you want to be friends with and just be more social. You're going to need to go out of your way to try stuff more, okay? So those are just a few instances of meeting someone in the out in the wild, right? You make a comment on this. I make a comment on the girl in front of me. It could be you're in line getting coffee, and you could literally just say, oh, hey, man, what's up? What would you recommend I get? I don't really drink a lot of coffee. Oh, well, I'm going to get this, right? And then you could be like, oh, cool. Are you heading to work? Da-da-da. And then if that person's interested in you, they'll reciprocate, right? And if they're not interested, you're going to need to learn how to read body language. You're going to need to learn how to listen to their voice, get these signals of whether they're interested or not, because not everyone's so super clear about it. Some people are kind of just chill personalities, so they don't come off super excited. But those are details far beyond the scope of this video. This is just start making comments. And it can be as simple as just like, hey, what music are you listening to? Or, hey, man, what's up? How are you? Right? I don't know. You could get lunch, right? And you can see some dude sitting alone. You're like, hey, man, I don't have anyone to sit with. Do you mind if I join you? Try it, right? He might be open to it. Or he might be like, kind of just want to spend time alone. Cool. No problem. Boom. Move on, right? Start taking risks. So that's how you do it in the wild, right? But then, of course, there's meeting people through events, right? So there's websites like Meetup Group. You can find that. You can go to your gym and see if there's like a class, a workout class. And you can start going to those and start seeing people. You can, go to a yoga class. You can go to a dance class. You try things that you've never tried before, right? And don't do there's a lot of guys. This is like, I don't know why. This is one of my pet peeves. But there is this like obsession. I don't know where it comes from. I guess it's because of the stereotype. But like everyone in the dating advice community, I have so many clients. They're like, yeah, I'm taking bachata classes. I'm taking tango classes and salsa classes. I think it's because it's an easy way for you to like dance with a girl. So they're just looking for a cheap way to make it happen. But for some reason, and it fucking annoys me, like so many dudes want to go to a bachata class. And I'm like, bro, go do something fucking original. Go to a yoga class. Go to like a hip hop dance class. Go to a crump class. Go to crumping is fun as shit. Go to a painting class. Don't do the fucking stereotypical bachata, because if I have many people who I've known who have tried it, other dudes are probably trying it, and it's probably fucking annoying, right? Go do something original. Go to a fucking watercolors class. Go to a sketch class. Go try something new, right? And you can meet girls and guys that way, right? And honestly, if you're there to meet girls, you're gonna come off that way. Like, it's going to be pretty obvious that you were there to meet girls. And, hello, my knee. It's going to be, you're going to rub off pretty obviously that you're there to meet girls. Because if you're going to a bachata class just to meet girls, there's chances are you're not very good with girls, which means you're going to be pretty obvious in your mannerisms. But then also because a lot of other people do it. Sorry, this is a pet peeve of mine. I just hate when I hear a client go, I'm trying to take bachata classes. Fucking be original, okay? I actually have one client in particular. He's probably going to notice this, and he's going to mention it in our next meeting here, in our next coaching call. He's be like, were you calling me out? And I'm like, no, you were just the most recent one to admit it. It's just, do something different, okay? But go to some events. And do something you genuinely want to do, right? Something you genuinely like. Like, I love playing Magic the Gathering. I love playing fucking card games, right? And so I meet people from there, right? I'm not interested in learning social skills from them because they don't fucking have social skills, right? They're some of like the most antisocial people imaginable, right? But I want to play Magic. So I want to get better at it. So I'm going to go to as many Magic events as possible and play with as many people as possible so I can find guys who are going to make me a better Magic player, right? And I'm going to spend time around them and look at how they think and watch how they, make decks and how they, how they play and how they da-da-da, right? Because that's what I'm interested in. So find what you're truly interested in, right? And go meet people who are doing the thing that you want. Because if you think about it, the question I started off with was, what are people doing when they're not working, right? They're doing activities, they're running errands, and they're spending time with other people, right? Pretty much, right? Aside from working, sleeping, shitting, eating, whatever, that's what they're doing, right? So you're going to meet people doing the activities that they like or running errands in the wild, right? Just on their way to work or going to grab groceries or whatever, right? So your most likely way of meeting them is during one of those two things. Then once you start meeting these people, you have to obviously make them your friend, which I guess is a part two. And the secret really is just inviting them to do things, right? Don't wait for people to invite you. Even if they're interested in getting to know you, not a lot of people are always the most, so they're probably afraid of, coming off gay or, overly interested. Or, they just get busy and forget or whatever, right? Also, it helps to take the helm, right? A lot of times when I wanted to meet people, I was the one who invited them out. I was the one who, it's just a very good thing because it shows value. It shows interest, and it doesn't look desperate. If you text someone like, hey man, let me know the next time you go to a party. I've had guys text me that, and it always just rubs me the wrong way. And I never really knew why. But if you think about it, it's just because they're looking for you to do them a favor, right? And it kind of comes off like they don't know how to find things on their own, right? But if you're like, hey man, I'm going to go to the beach if you want to join me, right? I remember meeting one guy and I did that. And he's like, oh, hey, sorry, man, I'm working. But hey, man, I'll let you know the next time something else is going on. And he ended up inviting me out a different night, right? So yeah, that'll be, I guess, a part two. But once you start meeting these people kind of randomly, then what's going to happen is you'll hang out with them, and then you'll meet completely different people through them that you normally wouldn't have met otherwise. Because that is the best way to meet people, is through other people. But we're looking how to meet people completely outside of your current social circles. We're trying to branch out into new environments and new groups of people. And usually that's not going to come easy, because unless you're already a cool guy with cool people in his social circle, you're not going to meet, if you're friends with uncool people, they're not usually going to magically have a cool friend, right? You're going to have to take the risk and, branch out yourself and then meet a cool person. Then they're going to have the cool people in their groups, or the hot girls, because usually the hot girls are hanging out with cool people. Sounds bad, but that's how the world works. There are levels. But it depends on what you mean by value, right? Is it the cool art people? Is it the business people? Is it the sporty people? Well, it depends what you're looking for, right? I would advise for you to branch out in as many directions as possible, even if it's not within your comfort zone. I think that's the best way for you to promote your own growth. But of course, most people are not super interested in being, a social wazoo and just know how to do everything. But that's the method I took, or the path I took, and it turned out really well. You learn how to get along with all sorts of groups, right? At my heart, I have a lot of different, Hectors, right? I have a sporty Hector. I have a, nerdy Hector. I have a gamer Hector. I have a intellectual Hector. I have a meditation Hector. I have a yoga Hector, right? I have a lot of interests, right? You can't pin me down to one particular group. And so, that enabled me to get along with a lot of other people. And I found parts of myself that, I didn't think were very strong, but actually once I was around those kind of people, it came out, right? There's even a meathead Hector, right? It doesn't come off that way, but I definitely can be quite a fucking meathead if I want to. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would not limit yourself, but obviously, like I said, not everyone wants to be social wazoo. So, anyways, that's how you meet friends you would never otherwise meet in the wild or through events. Put yourself out there, try it. Obviously, your performance, the way that you come off, your charisma, your conversation has a large effect on whether or not it'll lead anywhere, but you got to start somewhere. So that's where it is. All right, guys. Best luck. Love you. Yeah, bye. Awkward ending.